We're now not far away from the first anniversary of the 2019 general election, where the Conservative Party, led by Boris Johnson, won a clear 80-seat majority based on the primary manifesto pledge of getting Brexit done. The British people voted for Brexit 3 times. In the 2016 referendum, with a clear 52% victory for the Leave side, in the 2017 general election, where both the Conservative and Labour parties had manifesto pledges that were committed to implementing the referendum result, and again in late 2019, when Labour had backtracked on the pledge, but Boris Johnson's Conservatives were absolute in their commitment to it. The Conservative Party won seats it hadn't won in living memory, in places like Tony Blair's former seat of Sedgefield, which it hadn't won since 1931, as well as seats like Wrexham, which it had never won before. And that was a tremendous leap of faith for many voters. There were parts of the country where Tory had been a dirty word for generations due to the decline of heavy industry, but they could see how Labour was backpedalling over Brexit, and voters in those areas gave the Conservatives the benefit of the doubt. And as things stand, they have every reason to feel let down by Boris Johnson's government. And what's absolutely astonishing in all this is how close to the wire these talks are going. Boris Johnson's original deadline of mid-October passed more than 5 weeks ago. We cannot take these talks right up until midnight on New Year's Eve. The entire business community can handle bad news a lot better than it can handle uncertainty. If you've received bad news, you can adapt, you can adjust, and you can take appropriate action. By not having concluded the talks some weeks ago, the business community and those places up and down Britain that elected Conservative MPs last December, most of them in medium-sized towns, have good reason to feel let down by Boris Johnson's government. And even if a deal is reached in the days ahead, the anxiety and the stress caused by pushing these talks so close to the end of the year, in terms of the lack of preparation time for whatever lies ahead, the business community has every right to feel let down.
Now, there's been talk in the press over the last 24 hours of some rebellion within the Conservative Party, especially coming from the European Research Group. Do you think Boris could deal with a rebellion at this point?
Well, what's astonishing about all this is that there is the people in these parts of the country that elected Conservative MPs that hadn't elected them for generations, they took an incredible leap of faith. They have every right to feel let down. And those MPs for those constituencies understand the position they're in. They were elected because of this leap of faith, and those MPs, their faith in Boris Johnson is declining fast because of the situation we're in. And what we're hearing in recent days is there's a lot of gossip coming out of it, but there's no solid detail about exactly where we are, how close are we really to a deal. There's very little in terms of reliable information coming out of either the UK or the EU side. But one of the sad things about all this is this was an entirely avoidable situation. One of the main failings of this whole negotiating process, going back to 2016, is there's never been much expertise, particularly on the UK side, in understanding how the EU and its institutions work. But what's really frustrating is that this business of endless rounds of complex negotiations and uncertainty, it was entirely avoidable. There was, until recently, a relatively straightforward, though imperfect solution, and that's the so-called Norway Option. It's effectively take it off the shelf and plug it in Brexit, but the UK government foolishly ruled this out some time ago. The business community has enough to worry about at the moment. It doesn't need to have the endless hassle of red tapes and delays of customs hanging over it. But it also needs to be in a position to take advantages of the tremendous trading opportunities with the wider world that the UK will have once we are freed from the shackles of the EU. And even pragmatic people who didn't support Brexit, such as Stephen Kinnock on the Labour side, saw the EEA option as a sensible way forward. Sadly, it's too late now, and that really is a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. And finally, can you imagine Boris making any key concessions to get this deal through?
Well, in terms of concessions, the big problem has been is that the UK really has overplayed its hands on fisheries. The EU wants to maintain its rights to Britain's fishing waters. Under the Common Fisheries Policy, all member states are given access to EU waters via quotas. And since entering what was then the EEC in 1973, the British fishing industry has been utterly decimated as a direct consequence of EEC, EC, and then EU membership. Fishing rights feel emotionally important in negotiations as a result of that, but in terms of fishing's economic importance, it really is minuscule.